Hello and welcome back. Is Entertainment Talk's DC TV podcast regarding the CW DC shows. I'm your host as always, Matthew. Joining me today is Robert. How are you doing today?
We don't talk about the Halle Berry movie.
Okay, we shall not talk about the Halle. How'd you say her name? Halle Berry?
Halle Berry.
Halle Berry. Okay, we shall not talk about that then. But in regards to good TV and good superhero stuff, we'll start off with Supergirl, which was for season 2, episode 6. So we start off
Well, they said he was studying. Somehow I doubt he had too much animal biology. That's the kind of thing that, in a normal real-world situation, you'd double bag, Ziploc that shit up, and just wait for somebody qualified to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that wouldn't have been a very interesting episode if they'd have done that.
No.
But that's my problem. It's always the minute real-world stuff that always breaks me out of characters.
And wonders what was going on. So the DEO finds out that Jones killed the other scientists. Kara gets angry with Mon-El when she finds out that he uses his powers to make money. Yeah, that wasn't very... It was interesting. It wasn't very nice, him like holding this person up to the fence and all that kind of stuff. That was kind of nasty. It gave me that feeling that they knew what to do with his character, but he like wasn't sure how to use his powers. But then, I've heard people like Max Landis, who's a screenwriter and stuff like that, say that like it should be an assumption that when you get powers that you know to do good with them, unless of course you're going for like a villain, like a Reverse Flash or any other villain that's got powers. So yeah, that was interesting. What did you think of him trying to do that?
I think it made sense. I mean, they really haven't revealed too much of his personal backstory outside of him, unwillingly being saved from the planet and being in the court. So that would just be a normal thing. He's not, raised on Earth, raised on any kind of value system that they've set up. It actually weirdly reminded me of the Deadpool movie, where Ryan Reynolds had that line saying that the problem with the superheroes is that they're all lame-ass teachers' pets. And he wasn't being a lame-ass teacher pet, and she was kind of having issue with that. So,
yeah, it was pretty interesting. The DEO predicts Jones's next target, and Kara and John, it's John, right, not John, because it's John Jones, attempts to stop him, but the latter drains their powers, becomes larger and stronger, and escapes. So yeah, this is that, turns up on the bike and stuff.
Yeah, Guardian's an interesting character. He's one of those characters that several different DC characters is when John Jones is at the bar and his hand starts shaking. That's more important than they led on to, but again, going into spoiler territory that I'm...
306 or Season 3, Episode 6, whatever way you prefer to name it. When Wally relates his recent dreams of being Kid Flash, Barry reveals what happened to him during Flashpoint, which may be a good idea, may not be a good idea. We'll have to wait and see how it fully kind of plays out. A metahuman... So yeah, Wally's having these kind of like bad dreams and stuff. A metahuman HR nicknamed Shade appears and murders a stockbroker. He just kind of easily picks him up and kills him and vanishes. What did you think of Shade as a villain with this secret and stuff? I thought wasn't very nice. Alchemy begins summoning Wally to him, and that was pretty creepy. Just hearing Alchemy's voice must be pretty terrifying. So the team locks him in the particle cells for his own safety, which is pretty smart because nothing can get in there. Meanwhile, Barry and the others stop Shade's next attack and capture him using meta-dampening handcuffs, so he puts the handcuffs on him. What do you think of this stuff with Wally?
it's one of those things that it makes sense in the character arc. I mean, from when they first introduced him onto the show, he was always a little bit jealous of Barry.
Yeah.
Both for the obvious affection between him and his adopted father, and then later on once he's revealed to be the Flash, because he was a streetcar racer. And, if you're a streetcar racer, you're kind of a little bit addicted a lot to speed. And then being able to run, 500 times faster than anything that can be driven, that's going to spark even a little bit more kind of sort of a giant bit of jealousy.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting way to go between him and Barry, and Barris, who's like in the middle, trying to basically calm everybody down. So it's an interesting little family dynamic.
With his brother being dead.
Yeah.
And him being really angry at that. And I'm wondering how much of that is inward, in that he probably kept a lot.
This further angers the recruits, Evelyn most of all. Evelyn's the one with the bow and arrow, right?
Yeah, her character is Artemis.
I'm still kind of learning these new recruits' names. So.
Yeah.
Because you've got Curtis, who is Mr. Terrific. You've got is it Wild Dog?
Wild Dog, yeah.
He's the one that was getting beaten up by Thingy.
Church, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. A pattern between the victims. Yeah, we talked about that. This further angers the recruits, Evelyn most of all. As they did not know about Oliver's kill list from when he first returned, Felicity uses the pattern to predict future victims, and the team splits up. Not necessarily always a good idea, but they have some firepower. So Evelyn encounters Prometheus and engages him, managing to cut his arm before being overpowered. Oliver then arrives, but Prometheus escapes. So I like this train scene. It was actually really cool. I liked all of it. I was wondering if the what do you call it? Like the driver of the train. I wondered if he was gonna die, if he was just gonna get stabbed with that massive sword. Which I don't recall them revealing that Prometheus has a sword. So that was quite cool as well, to just see him take that out. Yeah, and his fight with Evelyn was quite interesting as well, because I thought it's a bit early for Evelyn to die, and it's a bit early for Prometheus to die, so what exactly is going to happen here? Cut his arm before being overpowered. Oliver then arrives, but Prometheus escapes. What did you think of the train scene?
I thought it was very cool. It's they haven't had a really long drawn out action sequence in a while. If you remember previous seasons, they'd have a stretch where it'd be like a motorcycle chase, with somehow being able to ride a motorcycle while shooting a bow and arrow, which requires a tremendous amount of strength to do a draw and pull on, even with a compound block and tackle kind of style bow. With gunfights and ninjas and assassins and everything flying out the place, and that's been really missing this whole season. So to have that train sequence as short as it was really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Where was I? And Oliver then arrives, but Prometheus escapes. Meanwhile, Thea discovers that Quentin never quit drinking, which I didn't think he did anyway. Evelyn reconciles with Oliver, and they also use a parachute arrow to get out of the train, which was interesting.
Yeah, that's also something that's been lacking for the whole show, and it was always
arrows,
the trick arrows was always a little ridiculous as a concept, but it made for great visuals in the comic, and especially if you look at on the at that in season 3, I want to say. It was the episode to where they had the other vigilante, who was the boxer, the trainer, and then they had that one scene where he scoops up the arrow with the boxing glove with the arrow and shoots it.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of an old staple for the Green Arrow series, was to have a boxing glove arrow. And that was a nice little nod to that. But they haven't really done any trick arrows for the most part.
Do you think it's a budget thing at all?
I think it's part budget. I think it's part just accepting for the most part. real world physics in the show, because having that kind of a contraption on the end of the arrow would just be horribly heavy on the top end, and it would make shooting it really impractical.
Yeah, I like the explosive ones as well. What arrow would you make if you could make one?
Oh, that's a good question.
He hasn't really used like multiple arrows, like kind of. I know you don't play Overwatch, but like Hanzo from Overwatch, he basically you press a button and he basically shoots like multiple arrows with one shot.
I would think giving as much shooting as you get done, some kind of like either a turret arrow, just to have like a little mini turret shooting, either like
kind of like the ground and then
yeah,
that would be cool. Yeah. But yeah, he gets in the fight with Evelyn, reconciles with Oliver. Felicity tells Billy that she works with the Green Arrow, so she finally realized she had to tell him, which intrigues him. Would then have like been sobbing over where he is and all that sort of stuff. So I'm glad that didn't happen. So I feel like that would have taken up unnecessary time in the show, depending on how much time they would have spent on that. But I think you get what I mean. She later tells Oliver that evidence she has discovered suggests that Prometheus could be an SCPD, so Starling City Police Department officer. Quentin is shown awakening from an alcohol-induced sleep with a slash across his arm and a throwing star in his possession. In flashbacks during a Bravatar operation, Oliver is abducted by Cover's men and taken to him. So yeah, it's kind of revealed that Quentin is Prometheus. It's heavily implied.
It's heavily implied. It's not 100% confirmed. It's not like he pulls off the mask or anything like that. He's got a slash in the same spot, and he's got a throwing star, which in the episode they said was a bunch of the arrows from his old Hood days melted into the throwing star. The thing is that they're just implying that. They haven't said it for sure, and nothing in Quentin's backstory has hinted at him being skilled enough to either use a throwing star or to do anything like that. I mean,
that talented, because Prometheus is a pretty good fighter.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible that he could be it. I'm not that familiar with the Prometheus character, and obviously they're not doing everything exactly as the comic books, so there's always that bit of difference. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see where they go with that.
Yeah, it could be something to do with like his alcoholism, and that's maybe causing him to do some drunken stuff or something related with the alcohol, maybe, or maybe it's Malcolm Merlin up to some tricks off screen, or because I mean he did that thing with like Sarah when he was it Thea? He made Thea kill.
Yeah, they made Thea kill Sarah.
Yeah, so it could be something like that. It doesn't definitely mean that he is Prometheus, but it's pretty heavily implied. Like the kite is the same. He's got the throwing star on him, but he doesn't seem all that like focused. So who knows what's going on. But yeah, very interesting.
Or he could just be exhausted from running around as Prometheus at night.
Yeah, that could be a possibility too. So yeah, should we move on to Legends?
Yeah, I just want to give everybody a warning.
Okay.
That reveal of the possibility of Quentin being Prometheus, put that as a 6 on the holy shit-o scale, and the end cap for next episode is going to be at least an 11.
Okay, I will.
And I'm not saying a word. I'm just prepping you so that you don't fall over.
Okay. I sort of like, I was trying to find the Quiver podcast, which is a Arrow podcast that I listen to, and instead of me clicking on episode 5, I accidentally clicked on 6. It was Wednesday at the time, and I just wanted to see what they thought of, I keep forgetting his name, thingy that died last week.
Church,
that's it. I keep forgetting his name. Yeah, I wanted to see what they thought of that, and then one of the guy who runs the podcast, of course, it wasn't his like fault or anything. I clicked on the wrong episode, and it wasn't like a straight up spoiler, but he said something along the lines of like, how can Detective Lance hold a crossbow? And I was like, what's he talking about? And then I stopped it immediately because I realised I was on the wrong one. But
Yeah,
so I had
that.
some thought that it could be, and then
Well, I can
but
save you some stress. That ain't it. In fact, I don't even remember at a crossbow in that episode, so I'm not
oh,
quite
not
sure
crossbow,
what.
bow and arrow. Sorry, is what
Okay,
I meant.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Alrighty. Well, I don't
okay.
remember anything about that. All I can reassure you 100%. That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Legends, which I always have to remember when I do these notes is an episode behind, so it's not the episode 6. So this was season 2, episode 5. This was a good episode. I liked it. In 1987, I like the Earboard Thorn and the Damien Dark stuff. That worked really well for me personally. In 1987, Earboard Thorn offers Damien Dark an alliance, which Dark declines because he... Is it implied why? I can't quite...
It's never really implied, but he's always
Batman?
been kind of a leader. I mean, from all the dark stuff from the season on Arrow, it's pretty much, even though he works for that group for whatever they are, he's always considered himself to be the alpha and in charge. And at this point in his timeline, I don't know how far ahead he is on that, but he's got a complete unknown quantity outside of having seen him, back in the 40s and being the same age as him. But he doesn't really know who he is, what he's capable of. So why the hell should he get in an alliance with him?
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it made Damien Dark's character more interesting. Aboard the Wave Rider, Nate discovers an aberration. Aberration, thank you. In 1987, involving the INF treaty signing. The team infiltrates the White House as tourists and find Dark there as one of the treaty negotiators. Sarah, which it also had a funny scene of Ray getting some, was it gummy bears or something?
Are you talking about the stakeout or
when he finds that jar of sweets? Ray.
I'm blanking on that part. Or is this on the Wave Rider, or is this in the White House?
It's when they're in the White House. He's with Firestorm.
Okay, I'm not remembering that episode. I'm not remembering that section of it.
Okay.
But it would make sense. President Reagan was infamous for loving not gummy bears, jelly beans.
That's it, jelly beans. Yeah, I was just bringing it up because it was a particularly funny scene. So
that's a nod to Reagan and his love of jelly beans. He always had them on his desk when he was president. Just a little sugar nibble.
Okay, right. It was pretty funny. The team infiltrates the White House and, as tourists, find Dark as one of the treaty negotiators. Sarah attempts to kill him. She's really cool, Sarah. I think I'm in the majority as well when I say that, because I've listened to other podcasts and looked on different discussion groups, and everybody seems to really like Sarah a lot. Do you like her?
Yeah, she's a fun character. She's definitely coming into her own as kind of a leader.
Definitely, yeah. So she's awesome. Which alerts White House security and forces the team to make a very public escape. They soon learn that Dark is making his own secret deal with the KGB. Returning to the White House during a state dinner, they discover him making an exchange with KGB agents for a box with an unknown item. The team defeats Dark's men and the Russians. There was also a really cool bit in this with Vixen and her using that kind of, I don't know what you would quite call it, that sight thing that she uses. When she, I think it's just before him and Citizen Steel meet that other guy, she uses that sight that she has.
One of the animal spirits from her totem.
Yeah, that was pretty cool as well. So where was I? Sarah confronts Dark, but spares his life. Instead, she reveals his future. This was really interesting as well. I like this a lot. Reveals his future to torture him. His master plans failure. So this was kind of her saying, "I know basically not what's definitely going to happen to you, but what's in your future." And I like, obviously she hates him a lot because he killed
Laurel.
Laurel. That's it. Sorry, blanking on her name. Because he killed Laurel and stuff. What did you think of the Sarah and Damien Dark thing? I thought it was really good.
I think it is really good. It was also really interesting in that for this whole season, they've been fighting aberrations. And then she just creates this giant big one revealing his future and basically taunting him and scaring him. Because we don't really know what the effect is going to be of that interaction. Because that's kind of a big interaction. That could have the possibility of changing a lot of things.
Possibly, yeah.
And this isn't even me dancing around a possible spoiler. They don't really get into it much. Because they got this episode, and then they got the next one, and then it's your time to watch the crossover. So they're not really doing anything, jaw-dropping right now.
Which I've heard some people liked it, some people didn't like the crossover. What did you? I won't ask you obviously what happened, but did you like the crossover?
The crossover was okay. There was one episode that was really, really weak. It was a meh episode, and then making it part of the crossover just dropped it down. There's a couple that were really good and one that was average. I think it's one of those things that it's just the logistics between doing a crossover of 4 different shows. They either needed somebody different to do it, or they needed to interact with it a little bit more, because it just really didn't fit. I think it's the best way to say it.
Yeah. I haven't read it yet, but I did see a post from Alan Sepinwall this morning. Have you heard of Alan Sepinwall?
No.
He's a TV critic from like Hitfix and now like Uprocks. So yeah, I obviously didn't read it because I didn't want any spoilers, but he said how they can make it better next time. So I just thought I'd throw that out there as an interesting little piece. So where was I here? Her interaction with Damien Dark reveals his future to torture him, his master plan's failure, his wife's murder, and his own eventual death. Earboard whisks Dark away. I find the Earboard or Reverse Flash is the same person. It's a lot more interesting in this Flashpoint kind of storyline. I find him a lot more interesting than what they were doing in season 1. Not that season 1 was boring, because it was great, honestly. But
well, season 1 was kind of limited in that he was Eobard Thawne pretending to be Harrison Wells.
Yeah.
And you could tell the two were in a lot of conflict in terms of, I don't want to be this person to Barry, but I must be this person to Barry. He really couldn't be himself.
Yeah.
And in this one, they just kind of let him be him, which is incredibly ironic considering the him that's being him isn't the him that was Harrison Wells, because that's like a future version of himself.
Yeah. So I think it makes his character better than before, but it was still a great character. So he whisks Dark away, but not before Sarah steals the box from him. She realizes the team is up against a time-traveling speedster. Unnerved by Sarah's revelation, Dark insists on teaming up with Earboard, and then the two enter a time stream. So that was interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. Yeah, I just think that Damien Dark and Reverse Flash are just really good together, and it makes them better and more interesting than when they had their separate storylines, because I found Damien Dark in season 4. I think season 4 of Arrow, looking at it now, is actually really like horrible of a season. And I've seen and heard various different people that have not agreed with me directly, but have the same opinion. What do you think of like season 4 at this point?
I wasn't the biggest fan of season 4.
It started off okay, and then it just really fell off for me.
Yeah, it's just some of the decisions just don't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like the splitting up between Felicity and Oliver. I mean, I can understand why she was as pissed as she was. It just never made any sense that she was that pissed.
Yeah.
Considering everything else they've been through. I mean, unless it was like some kind of, straw that breaks the camel's back kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But they never really resolved that to the point, and now they're, 6 episodes into this season and she's dating somebody else.
Yeah. Do you think it doesn't matter entirely, but do you think they'll get back together, or do you think the writers are kind of leaving it for a long time?
I have no idea. It's one of those things they really haven't dedicated a whole lot of screen time
Yeah,
to.
and they haven't really needed to either. I feel
Yeah, they
like.
haven't needed to
Yeah.
either.
I'm still kind of on the fence about this new Team Arrow. They were a lot better in this episode, and I liked Evelyn's fight with. Sorry, not in this episode because we're talking about Legends. But yeah, I'm starting to see the better side of them. But
Yeah, they just need more time and more backstory.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, like I said, Damien Dark and the Earball teaming up. I'm looking forward to it, and it should be really cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I don't know this yet because you got the one episode and then you got the crossover.
Okay.
So it's nothing that's been revealed yet. I'm really kind of hoping they set up the Legion of Doom. Kind of like the because you got the Justice League, and then you've got various incarnations of the opposite of that with the supervillains.
Yeah.
And so I'm really hope that's where they're going with that. I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
Because it's only two. You really can't have a group with that's just two people for something like that. But you've got the whole of Team Arrow, you got the whole of Team Flash, you got the whole of Legends, and then you got two dudes.
Mm-hmm. I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah. We'll have to wait and see. So is it 9 episodes and then that's the mid-season break?
I think the mid-season break is at 9, but also the mid-season break is after the crossover. Because I was watching, obviously I watched the crossover this week because we're ahead of you guys here. And then every promo for the next episode all listed it as the mid-season finale, which is obviously not the series finale. It's just the break before they go, because we're in December now. God, we're in December now.
Yep.
We're in December now, and so we got all the Christmas stuff coming up and all the Hanukkah stuff coming up if you happen to be Jewish, and all the Kwanzaa stuff coming up. So the next 3 weeks, there's really not a whole lot of time for shows because there's all other stuff on here.
Yeah,
and if you're
specials and whatnot.
Yeah. And if you're in America, then you've got all the college football that's wrapping up. You got all the bowl games. Then we're right into New Year's. So to do the break now, it makes perfect sense. It's going to be a little bit weirder timing for you because then that's going to put the mid-season break like the week before New Year's. So I'm not quite sure how the episodes are going to shake out like that.
Counted, and the episode 9 should be on the week of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they do something else, I'm not sure, but we'll have to see.
Hard telling.
Yeah. I wonder what they're going to do in Legends as well, because that's less episodes and stuff. But
yeah, well, they had to stagger the starts because they didn't start the shows at the same time, but the crossovers all happened at the same time, so they had to. That's why Legends is like an episode behind.
Yeah. Alright, cool. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening to this podcast. We shall see you. I've made various different accounts today for. I made sure we had an Instagram account. We got a Tumblr. We've got obviously Twitter and Facebook. Those are like the main 4 social ones that I think people would consider. And the podcast post should be shared out to each of those. So if you're on one of those services, then you should see it there. But yes, thank you everybody for listening. If you'd like to check out everything else on the website, you can go to entertainmenttalk.org. If you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at eTalkUK, just like Colin Render did. Thank you for your tweet. And of course, if you'd like to tweet anything to us, then please feel free to do so. Of course, if it's not something nice, then you'll just be blocked. So just send something nice to us. You can send your inquiries and your feedback regarding the website or regarding any topics or anything to do with Entertainment Talk itself. You can send those emails to entertainmenttalk@hotmail.com. We shall see you Monday for the Xbox podcast, which should be quite fun because it's the Game of the Year Awards. So some nice stuff to talk about there. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you on Monday for that. Unless we don't see you, then we'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.